I have the great pleasure of sitting down with the one and only Nora Matthew, owner of Her Strength Studio. Nora, it's great to be with you.
Oh, thanks for having me, Alec.
Yeah, it's great to be with you and have you on Built Different because for me, you are someone that really is built different in all these aspects of your life in a really impressive way. And I want to get into all of it with you.
Mhm.
But I love Inside the Actors Studio. It was one of those shows I grew up watching. And in honor of James Lipton, I want to ask you a similar question the way he usually started off those conversations. Where were you born and where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Brunswick, just outside Troy, and that's where I grew up.
So Brunswick, Capital Region
hmm
girl.
Yep.
What was it like really growing up here?
It was great. I mean, I grew up in the country, so in like a 200-odd-year-old farmhouse, and so I have two older brothers, and we had a great upbringing. We still very close with my parents. They still live in my childhood home. But yeah, I really love this area. I left for a little while, but I did end up coming back.
Now I know you have a background as a Division One athlete.
Yep.
Can you talk to me a little bit about what it was like for you to prioritize growing up, being athletic? Just what was your relationship to movement at
Yeah.
that time?
I mean, I've always been an athlete, and my brothers were athletes, and all my friends were athletes growing up. And I fell in love with track in middle school, and I didn't realize that I was fast until I got to high school. And at that point, actually have a cousin, and she's not like a first cousin; she's a distant cousin, but we had the same last name. And I got to high school, and my track coach was like, "Oh, you're the cousin of," and I was like, "Yeah, but she was like a distance runner. I have no natural endurance whatsoever, zero." And I think he was kind of disappointed, but then I ended up really taking to the 100, 200, and I did really well with it. So I think that was like a consolation prize to him. So it was like, yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely want to ask you about your running journey
Yeah,
because I know you just completed recently a half
I
marathon,
did. Yeah,
but if I'm correct, you hadn't really run in a while before that training.
that's right.
Yeah, so I want to get into that and that experience first. But
Yeah.
going back to being a college athlete,
hmm
it's so impressive to me. And, I was a intramural college athlete at best and like a glorified coach for
Yep.
some of the sports. I wear a nice suit, but I wasn't at all in your league. What was the mindset that you felt like you had to have at that time to really be successful as a D1 athlete?
I mean, to be honest with you, I probably did not have the right mindset when I was in college. I walked onto the team, and it was like kind of a shock to the system. Going to these Division 1 meets, I was like, wow, these people are some next level athletes. They were crazy fast, and I feel like I did not focus and train enough to be really performing at that level. And so like halfway through my sophomore year, I was kind of faced with a decision of should I keep going and really focus on it and dedicate myself to this, or should I go a different direction? So I did end up going a different direction. I quit the track team, and I ended up joining the rugby team. So yeah.
That is quite the pivot.
It was, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what was going on in your mind that made you decide, really, I'm going to go from track athlete to rugby player?
So I think that expectation with Division 1 was just like I just wasn't prepared for it mentally, and I felt like if I were to dedicate all of my energy to it in college, that I wouldn't really have had the experience that I wanted to have. I was very social, and I wanted to live that social life in addition to my academics, and I felt like the Division 1 program was very limiting. The rugby team it's a club sport, and I had a friend who played, and she assured me that because I was fast, that I would never get tackled because I was like, I'm like 115 pounds, 5'4". There's no way I can play. Like I'm gonna get smashed. And she was like, well, she's like, no, you'll outrun everyone. And she was right for a while. I did outrun everyone for like a few months.
But eventually, somebody would tackle you. So, what was that like
Yeah.
when you first were like, okay, this is real? I'm being tackled now
Yeah.
playing rugby.
Yeah. I mean, I think you learn pretty quickly not to go into tackles slowly. Maintain your speed and your position, and be smart about it. And it's fine. But yeah, I had never really done any contact sports before that. So it was a little bit of a, yeah, like you're saying, it was a very large pivot for me, but I kept playing for a long time.
Well, you pivoted again, seemingly as we all do, for those of us who have thought about going from education to whatever we're going to do professionally. So, as you're preparing to finish college, what's your mindset like in terms of what you're looking at pursuing?
So, I actually studied theology in college, and so it was a lot of philosophy classes, theology classes, that kind of thing. And so I was writing a lot and thinking a lot, and I initially wanted to pursue my PhD in theology, and I actually ended up meeting my now husband at the beginning of my junior year in college, and he is from Scotland. So I actually ended up moving to Scotland and went to grad school there. And I have a degree in education, so that's what I ended up studying in grad school. So, yeah, but again, another pivot.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into it with you with a lot of things related to faith, but let me go
Yeah.
back to a second. Now, if I'm correct, you went to Catholic school for high school, and then Providence College is somewhat affiliated with the
Yep,
Catholic Church.
It's a Dominican school. Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, I grew up Episcopalian,
Hmm.
and I like to use the Robin Williams joke of growing up Catholic light.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
same rituals, but only half the guilt.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah, I've heard that.
So, for you, like growing up Catholic, what did that really mean for you?
So, I mean, we went to church every single week. I was an altar server growing up, and it was definitely a big part of my life. But I feel like you really have to, when you become an adult, you have to discover your faith for yourself. And so when I was when I went to Providence, like my first year, I actually went in as a political science major. And after probably a month of taking political science classes, I was like, I literally hate everything about this. It was awful. The people in the classes were awful. What we were studying was awful. I did not enjoy it at all. And so I was like, okay, what do I actually enjoy? What do I know about? What do I have a love for? And so I said to my parents, I think I'm going to switch to being a theology major. My mom was like thrilled. She was like, "Oh, okay, great." So that little pivot there. So when I studied the faith more, reading the church fathers, reading a lot of scripture, and also moral theology was a really great class that resonated with me. Just like talking about ethics, and logic and how you form arguments. I was so inspired, I think, and it spoke to me on such a deep level that I kind of rediscovered my faith at that point. And it really meant more to me than just what my family had been doing, while I was growing up. Like it was more than just a ritual to me. It was a personal conviction at that point.
It's really interesting you say all that because so much of that I identify with a lot. And I'm sure, like you've had various ups and downs in any real
Hmm.
relationship with Christ. For me, it's really gratifying to talk with you about this because I'm pretty sure we're about the same age.
Hmm.
And I went to a Christian liberal arts college, also in New England,
Yep.
and I did stick with it as a political science major. I was also
Good for you.
thank you. Although my political views now, as we've been talking about, are a little bit complicated, but
Sure.
I ended up graduating with a double major in political science and theater. But
Okay.
at Gordon College in Wenham, Mass, where I went to school, we were required to do an Old Testament class
Hmm.
and a New Testament class.
Hmm.
And I found that fascinating to really
Yep.
have a more academic instruction within that. But you
Yeah.
you really went to college within that Dominican environment.
Yep.
How do you feel like you were shaped just by being in an environment of a lot of people who had that type of faith background?
It's interesting. I don't even think, probably not a lot of my classmates were practicing Catholics. A lot of people went to mass, but on Sundays, but it was like there was like a lot of I don't know, it was very modern, like a lot of guitars and like a lot of deep feels, they're whatever. It was not exactly the type of Catholicism that I was used to. Um, but what really resonated with me was we had to take a development of Western civilization course. It was a 2-year course, so you had to take it freshman, sophomore year. And part of that was philosophy, and part of it was theology, English, and then history. So it was like kind of four. So you were on a team, and some of the professors that were on my team were just like really well known and in like the Catholic world. So Dr. Anthony Esselin, definitely he taught the English part of the Civ class, and he was the probably the smartest person I'd ever encountered up to that point in my life. And he would recite the Odyssey, just like by heart. Would just like stand up there and recite it, and I just was like blown away by that. And then also Dr. Paul Gondreau was also my theology professor, and he just like these men that were so deeply rooted in their faith. I was so just like inspired by the way that they lived their lives, and the passion that they had for what they knew to be true. And so I think I just kind of fell in love with like the truth piece of it, like truth with a capital T.
That that's really powerful that you say all that. I think for me, I know for me, what I continue to be attracted to within kind of that academic environment and seeking that out in my life now is being able to talk with smart people who disagree with me
Yeah.
about really big things.
Hmm.
At Gordon, I will never forget my favorite events that I ever went to were some debates between Arthur Brooks and Jim Wallace at the time, two huge people within kind of the academic world. Jim Wallace being more of a progressive Christian,
Hmm.
Christian lefty. Arthur Brooks at the time was with the American Enterprise Institute. He's really blown up on social media through a
Yeah.
lot of content he does. But just seeing that ability to have people come together and talk through smart things. Whatever you think about Charlie Kirk, I
Right.
really respect the fact that he was pushing that on culture. I have a
Hmm.
friend who I went to college with, Stuart Connectley, whose father, Cliff Connectley, they have been going for years on college campuses and preaching and having these discussions. And again, they've had a lot of these conversations blow up. And again, no matter where you are on a faith or political spectrum, it seems clear to me than ever that people are really wrestling with these big topics and they're
Hmm.
wanting to think through this for themselves. Do you find that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that whether people know it or not, most people have a void that can only be filled by like true answers to real deep questions. And I think that a lot of times the void is filled by other things, by materialism, by addiction, just and by noise. A lot of it is noise now, right? Because like social media, we're just filling every moment with just social media and TV and just things that are like it's just we're just filling our minds with kind of garbage. My kids were talking about brain rot the other day. I didn't even know what that was. I'm upset that they know what it is, frankly, but I was like, wow, that's actually so accurate though. It's so well named because I just think that if they're looking for truth and they're looking for fulfillment, they're looking often in the wrong places and the churches are a lot of them are empty.
A lot of them are empty, and we seem to really struggle with the concept of mystery
Mhm.
and embracing the unknown
Yep.
and being okay with that. And we talk about comfortable being uncomfortable a lot from a fitness perspective,
Yeah.
but it's so much bigger and deeper from a faith perspective too.
Mhm.
And I want to keep talking to you about this, but I'm curious. At Gordon, we used to joke about the ring by spring because there was that culture where it was like, oh, you're on campus with all these Christians and believers, so you better find your spouse.
Yeah, yeah.
Or there was the joke that, we as guys, we used to always joke that certain women were there more looking for the MRS degree
Yeah.
rather than anything else.
Yep.
But for you, you met Greg, I think junior year of college, you
Yep.
said.
Mhm.
So in those early interactions, like what was that like for you to kind of assess compatibility and how are we aligned on values?
It's so funny because so he was not at Providence. He was actually visiting Providence to play for the Providence city, like their club team, their rugby team. And so our paths kind of crossed in the rugby world. And I was dating someone else at the time, and he was like very involved in the political world. And I think I just thought at the time that that's what I wanted and that's who I wanted to be with. And then I met my husband, and right away I was like, whoa, this guy is, I mean, he was very attractive, and we like clicked right away. And it's funny because like he came from a completely different culture. Like, yes, obviously he's English speaking from Scotland, but it's just a totally different world. He had a different upbringing than I did. And so like in our initial conversations, when we were kind of like jiving, and he was like, he's like, I don't play games, and you either want to be with me or you don't. And I was like, this is new. This is no game playing thing. So and he was not religious at all. He grew up with no religion really. His both his grandmothers did go to church every Sunday, but again, more of that out of like the tradition, I think. But he did not grow up going to church, and but he was the first person that had said that to me. He was like, I don't play games. Like, if you want to be with me, then we'll be together. And literally, like, we had a long distance relationship for the next 2 years. So until I moved over there after graduating.
No, I've never actually met Greg. I think I've seen him in one or two reels where
Yeah.
you got him to do a cameo
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
promo for Her Strength.
Yeah.
But what's the level of Scottish accent? Anything
So
close to Sean Connery or not quite?
No. So my husband's from the East Coast. He's from like the countryside just outside Dundee. It's like sort of nearer to St. Andrews. And he's privately educated, so he doesn't have like a thick West Coast accent like you would get more in like Glasgow.
Was that disappointing when you first met him?
No, because I still had no idea what he was saying. I had no idea what he's saying. And he was with one of his friends that he'd come over with, and he had a little bit of a thicker accent, and they would talk to each other, and they would talk quickly, and they would use like a lot of like Scottish slang or whatever and terms, and I had no idea what they were saying, and I would just like listen to them, and I'm like, what are you saying? And he'd be like, don't worry about it, and just would like move on. And I was like, so that was how it was for like the first several months that we were together. I had no idea what they were saying when they were talking to each other. So it was pretty funny.
Yeah, no, that sounds amazing. And you two are wrapping up college together. Can you walk me through what that decision process or what the timing looked like for you to kind of decide as a couple, we're ready to take this step of being married, and what led you ultimately back here?
Yeah, so I went to visit him my senior year over Christmas break, and we had been, again, long distance, 3,000 miles apart for over, so it would have been a year at that point. And we were literally writing each other letters. Like at that point there was Skype, but it wasn't like a great connection. And because of our time difference, it was difficult. So we would email, but we would also write each other physical letters, which was just like, it was very romantic actually. And
Yeah, this has Hallmark movie potential.
I know, right? I think they already made this one.
Well, can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
They remake the same movie over and over
I
again. So
totally
I think we
believe
can
that.
get this going.
Yeah. Well, perfect. As long as like someone attractive plays me, like, I don't know.
Yeah, who would play you in a movie?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think, let's see. Maybe, who's Julia Roberts' niece? What's her name?
Oh, Emma Roberts?
Emma Roberts. Yeah.
That's a good choice.
I always thought she was really cute.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
I think she'd be a good choice to play you.
Yeah. Thanks. But yeah, so senior year Christmas break, I went to go visit him, and I was just like miserable being without him, and he was miserable without me. And I went to go, and we had talks where like, what do we do? Like, I'm 6 months away from graduating. Essentially one of us has to figure out like, we're going to have to make the move one way or the other. And just through like looking at grad schools, and I was like, okay, like I'm going to apply for this program at the University of Glasgow. And if I get in, then I'll apply for a visa. And but I was like, I'm not going without a ring. And he was like, okay. And mind you, none of his friends were married at that point. He's a couple years older than me, but none of his friends were married. So he was like, oh, I don't know. So, but I said, I can't marry you unless you're Catholic. And he was like, oh, okay. So like this poor guy, I mean, he had his world rocked. I don't think he was expecting this at all. I met his parents like weeks after we first got together. But anyway, so I went there, and Christmas Eve, we went to Christmas Eve mass, and we got home, and it was just us in his living room in front of the Christmas tree, and all the lights were off, and he was shaking, and I was like, what is wrong with you? And he got down on one knee and he proposed, and I was like, okay. So I spent the second half of my senior year engaged. So it was very like, None of my friends were even close to that. They were like, I think I was just kind of a weirdo. I was the black sheep of the group from that day on. But then I was just counting down the days until I got to move there. So I moved there on a fiance visa, which is so wild. Like 2 months after I graduated from college.
That is wild. I like how the relationship started by Greg saying, I'm not playing any games. And then you second it by saying, I'm not playing any games. I want a ring, and you're coming to the Catholic team.
Yeah, I was like, because he literally did RCIA like the second half of my senior year in Scotland with this amazing priest, Father Martin. And he was a young priest from England, and just like he just had that. My husband loved it. He had a great experience. He was like, this really resonates with me on like a level that I never really knew was there. So it was really awesome, actually.
Yeah. So what's the timing look like now from, the
Yep.
Christmas Eve proposal,
Mm-hmm.
Greg shaking, but ultimately popping the question and you
Yep.
saying yes,
Yep.
to then deciding we're ready to start a family and you're
Yep.
ready to start a business?
Yeah. So when I moved to Scotland, so it was 2011. We got married in August of 2011, and then I was pregnant with Rory by March of 2012. So it's my oldest. So once I had him, I think I was just like I wanted to be with my family. Like once I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to move home, and like I need my family around me. And my parents definitely wanted us to move home. They were like, please come back. And so we started the process. It took a year. So Rory was over a year old by the time we moved back to the US. So we moved back in 2014. I was pregnant with our second. And Yeah, so when I moved back, I had been working in gyms in Scotland. I worked at a box gym for a little bit, and then I moved over to like a more private gym. And at that time, I had fallen in love with kind of the pre-postnatal world. And then when I came back here, I started working for another gym here, and I started my prenatal strength training class. So that was in 2014 that I established my Pregna-Fit business, and then in 2018 I opened my brick and mortar space. So there was a little bit of time in there and another baby.
So you sort of answered it a little bit, but I want to double down on
Yeah.
what you just talked about. You made this intentional decision with Her Strength Studio to have it be a women's only gym.
Mm-hmm.
I like to joke that you allow us men into the Holy of Holies once a month for
Yeah.
518 Kettlebell Club,
Yep.
but that's a big decision right off the bat,
Yeah.
saying, okay, sorry guys, but no guys allowed. This is an all women's studio.
Yeah.
And you obviously mentioned that you had this passion for prenatal, postnatal
Mm-hmm.
type of thinking and supporting women in that environment. But
Mm-hmm.
why was that so important for you to really establish a gym community that was for women?
I mean, truthfully, I think it started with kind of that specialty in pre-postnatal. When I was pregnant with Rory, I had been doing CrossFit and I was lifting heavy, and I loved it, and I really enjoyed it. I love the strength and conditioning piece of training. It felt very empowering, but I was so uncertain as to what I should really be doing when I was pregnant. And I was like, I can't be the only one who's feeling like this. Like, you want to be smart about the way that you're training when you're pregnant, because it's not just you, it's the baby too. And you want to put yourself and the baby in the best position possible throughout pregnancy, and then setting yourself up for, a good postpartum experience. And there wasn't that much information, because really clinical research is not, I mean, a little bit now, but not so much is not really done on women of childbearing age. It's just not a thing. So everything was anecdotal. So I'm like looking things up online. I was like, oh, there's just nothing. You'd find everything on both ends of the spectrum. You would find people who would be like, don't ever lift weights because you're going to kill your baby. And then you'd be on the other side of the spectrum being like, oh yeah, you absolutely need to do exactly what you were doing pre-pregnancy. And it's like, okay, well there has to be more than just anecdotal evidence. There has to be real time, what actually is true and what isn't. And so I did a little bit, I dove a little bit further into it. And the more that the more people that I found were attracted to strength training during pregnancy and how that looked a little bit different, it just kind of snowballed into this community of more women who just they wanted to stay strong, they wanted to be healthy, and they wanted to feel empowered. And within this community, it was like we were all having babies at the same time. And then once they had their babies, they're like, okay, what do we do next? And I was like, okay, I got to do like a postpartum thing now. And so I saw over the years how valuable that community was, of just like, yes, the workout classes, but also the support of each other in this stage of life because it's so unique and it can be very overwhelming, and it's a very, it's kind of an uncertain time in your life, identity wise too, for women when they first have babies. And, who am I in this stage of my life? And so, in that mutual support of that community, I felt like this is just like where women feel safe. And so, when I went to open my gym, I almost made it just pre and postnatal, like just a gym for moms. But the more people that I spoke to, the more women that I spoke to that were experiencing perimenopause and postmenopause, where I was like, wow, there are so many stages of life that experience these same things. And I want to support women in all stages. And so when we opened in 2018, the majority of our members were, moms or new moms. But now it's totally different. We have all the ages of women. But it's really just it's creating that space where women just need to train differently than men sometimes. And it's not to say that they can't do the same workouts as men, but there are a lot of things that we have to take into consideration that men don't. To make it really simplistic, it's like we're on a 28-day approximately cycle, and men are on a 24-hour cycle. So the way that we approach our wellness and fitness and nutrition, it can look very different. But again, we can experience a lot of the same things as, other women who are a lot older than us. And that camaraderie is just like, it's such a beautiful thing. So yeah, it's definitely a whole world in and of itself.
Yeah, and one of the things I really admire about you personally is for me, you really lead from the front in your own fitness community. And for me, that's something I really think is important
Mhm.
to have in a successful fitness community is to see that leadership from coaches and really practicing what they preach.
Mhm.
And for those of you who do not know, you, Nora, are a mother of 5 boys.
Yep. I have 5 boys.
And so you've gone through this process multiple times.
Yeah.
And I know so many women who've had kids who have really struggled to figure out how they can get back into a body that they really love and maybe
Mhm.
were more excited about before they had kids.
Mhm.
What has that process been like for you now 5 times to
Mhm.
go through those pregnancies
Yep.
and then to also battle your own potential insecurities of feeling like I want to get back into that body that I really love?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's you basically start over every single time. It's like there's no real sugarcoating it. It's definitely tough. I think that the consistency of training is very helpful mentally. Um, and that being said, it's like training in a way that is sustainable was always really helpful for me because I found that a lot of women like just like to use CrossFit as an example again, like there are definitely women who do CrossFit throughout their whole pregnancies, but for the majority of women who are pregnant, doing CrossFit throughout the whole pregnancy and making it look exactly the same as it did pre-pregnancy is like virtually impossible. And it's almost like you're trying to fit like a square peg into a round hole in the sense of like, what do you need at this moment? Is it maximal lifts? Is it, a lot of cardio based workouts where you're doing burpees and running and snatches and whatever? I don't think that it is like that. So for me, I wanted to create a program that I could sustain throughout all my pregnancies. And every pregnancy is different too. So that's the thing. It's like I find that for every woman I've worked with, that strength training is very sustainable in lots of different ways. Regardless of how your pregnancy is going, because you can get, I mean, I had really bad, it's called pubic symphysis pain when I was pregnant with my first and my second. And it's basically means that like you have to like keep your legs together, or you get like really bad pain. Like it's basically like down your legs, like a nervy kind of thing. Cause if you like the pubic symphysis like kind of shifts a little bit in your pelvis just because of all the hormones, the relaxin. And because of that, I was like, oh my gosh, you couldn't even get out of the car. It was so painful. And so the one thing that I held on to was like I could still strength train, I could still squat, I could still deadlift. I couldn't lunge, but I was like, that's okay. I can just like pivot. And because I went through that struggle, I was able to help other women that experienced the same thing. And there's lots of different things that can happen during pregnancy. And it's like, okay, we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. You can continue to train in a way that makes sense for your body at that time. And like recovery is exactly the same because my third was a C-section. And so his recovery was very different from my others. And the fact that, I was able to return to a way that I trained that was just kind of grading myself back into it, and not feeling like I had to throw myself back into a crazy intense routine. That helped me so much mentally because I think it would have been too intimidating for me to get back into lifting really heavy right away or feel obligated to lift or to work out in a way that worked for me before because your body changes every single time. So,
Yeah. And for you, I mean, you ultimately are a big evangelist for women prioritizing strength training.
mhm.
And we've talked a lot about muscle mass and lean muscle mass being this ever evolving real currency of longevity.
Yeah.
So, how do you approach that working with people? Because I think the fitness industry is slowly realizing that to really connect with people, you have to offer them a lot more than simply a workout plan. You
hmm
have to really offer them a wraparound service, a holistic approach to embracing their longevity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing that I've learned from working with as many people as I've worked with, is that you really have to meet people where they are as opposed to throwing them into a program. I think people appreciate when you say, like, it's okay that you haven't worked out in 3 years, or it's okay that you've never lifted weights before. We can still work with you and build up from the bottom, and like that's okay that you're here. We see people that are injured. It's just meeting people where they are, and as opposed to like just, I feel like a lot of the fitness industry is it's intimidating, and so it puts people off from wanting to get stronger, and they feel incapable of putting themselves into a gym environment. Like, oh, I could never do that. Well, no, actually, you could. So that's why, I think working with people, people need handholding, and they need personalization, and they need encouragement to know that they are capable of a lot more than what they think. So like I think that's the key in approaching, people who really want more than your cookie cutter workout plan.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have this enormous anxiety of a group fitness environment. I
Yeah.
have come to love it now because it's all about community for me, whether it's
Mhm.
518 Kettlebell Club at Her Strength or other things that I like to do. Can you talk to me a little bit about how your classes really work?
Yeah.
For someone who's maybe a first time person who's never walked into Her Strength,
Mhm.
what's their experience when they walk in the door?
Yeah, so we always start with meeting people with a consultation. We sit down with every person who walks through our door, and we talk about, what their goals are, what their exercise history looks like. And with our program, so we really specialize in small group personal training. And so within our small group sessions, it's 8 or less people. There are also multiple levels of the workout that people can follow. And so everyone warms up together as a group, and then we go through the program individually. So, it's really about the individualized coaching as well. So all the coaches that work at Her Strength are excellent, and they're very good about holding people's hands and making sure that they feel good about what they're doing. So we try to make it as close to one-on-one personal training as possible, but also the community piece of it is really awesome because you can cheer on the people around you, and understand that everyone is kind of running their own race. So it's not like your stereotypical competitive environment. It's way more supportive, mutually supportive. Because we really, I mean, we have women of all ages in the gym, and we know that everyone comes from kind of a slightly different approach and background, and they all have slightly different goals, but everyone is so great about, supporting each other and being like, yeah, you can do that. I go, wow, look at her lifting, that 250-pound barbell. That's amazing. I want to do that someday. Like, yeah, Jan, you can do that someday. But we're not feeling like we all have to lift that same barbell, you know?
Yeah, you touched on the running your own race and
Yeah.
a very scriptural reference and thinking through that for everybody's personal fitness journey.
Yeah.
And I know for both of us, we've also had this faith journey alongside our
Mhm.
fitness journeys. And for me, whether you're a person of faith or not, or spiritual, whatever you might think about it, I know everybody who has embraced a fitness and wellness journey to some degree, they've had a domino effect in other parts of their life with
Mhm.
certain things they want to work on or get better. So,
Absolutely.
what does that look like for you, not only from a faith perspective, but other things in your life, financially, within your family? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that generally we try to live a life that doesn't leave us with regrets. For my family, so like for example, like my kids are homeschooled. We've chosen to homeschool our children, and that has definitely been a difficult undertaking for sure with 5 kids and 2 full-time jobs, but it's something that we're just not willing to compromise on. And I think that if you're not willing to compromise on certain things and convictions that you have, then it definitely goes through your whole life. Like if you're gonna say like, oh well, it doesn't matter, my health doesn't matter, so other stuff doesn't matter either. I think that truly having compassion and empathy for other people, and also for like really caring about bringing up my children in a way that is true to our values has been very important for my husband and I. So yeah, it's kind of unavoidable. Like once you start to work on your own health, it's like other things for sure come into view, and you're like, wow, this I could be doing this better.
Yeah, I know for me, I have a complicated relationship with politics because I look at a lot of it as a time period in my life where I invested so much time and energy into candidates and causes I believed in,
Mhm.
but realistically, often to the detriment of my own health.
Mhm.
And we see this climate that is ever more toxic in our political culture,
Yep.
on both sides to
Mhm.
me. And yet, I think one of the things about a fitness journey that seems so appealing is that ultimately you really get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, with all the things that seem outside our control, that's a very empowering thing to see that, okay, I did my workouts, I stuck to whatever my nutrition regimen is, my diet, and
Yeah.
here are the results that I've had.
Yeah.
Have you seen that in your own life?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm always looking for like the next thing to focus on. And like so if, like for example, I just ran a half marathon last Sunday, and that was never something that I thought I would do just cuz like my history as a sprinter. I'm like I sprint 200 meters is like enough. I don't really want to run that far. But I had noticed during my last pregnancy that like my resting heart rate was really high, and I'm like, "Oh, maybe I need to be, like, doing some cardio." So I made it a goal of mine to, like, really to run a half marathon. So my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, she is a runner, and she's fast. I'm not running her speed. But she's like, "Oh, I'll run a half marathon with you." And so I've been training for the last 12 weeks, and it's like, you just have to, like you have to just commit to it and dedicate yourself to it and make yourself uncomfortable, I think, in certain circumstances. And it was actually very edifying to me to like be able to run 13 miles. It was like, okay, yeah, I've been running pretty much 3 times a week for the last 12 weeks. And when I first started, I couldn't run like 3 miles without stopping. And now I just ran 13 miles and I did it. Like I checked that box, So I think putting in the work and being able to see those outcomes is very satisfying. I think, internally.
Oh, it's huge. For me on my own journey, I relate to that a lot because I think for anybody who's going to want to continue to win at their own life, The challenging thing is in a healthy way, you do become addicted to thinking in a way, how can I grow? And
Yep.
there's that balance between you want to have a healthy obsession and be relentless about it, but
Mhm.
you still have to think through what is next? What can I do to push myself? So for you now, you just did this half marathon.
Mhm.
So what's next?
Oh, I need to get back to lifting. So, like, lifting took a little bit of a back seat for me, over the last couple of months, and, I'm feeling it. Like, I'm like, "Okay, my VO2 max is great now. I feel really good. I feel like I could go run a 10K, no problem." But, yeah, I need to get back to into a routine of lifting.
Yeah.
So,
And when you're within her strength,
yeah.
I mean, the concept of training like an athlete is
Mhm.
something that I think we both talk a lot about. And for some people, for you, obviously, you're going to think like an athlete. You've been an athlete your
Mhm.
whole life. But for the average person who's walking into a gym environment and they hear that, how do you work to translate that concept to just practical, functional fitness in everyday life?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think some people come in with a lot of preconceived notions about fitness and lifting weights. And I actually love it when people ask, like, why am I doing this exercise? Or like, what is this for? I love to explain to people, and I know my coaches are the same way. Explaining like what is the value of a deadlift? Because a lot of people come in and think like, well, I'm gonna hurt my back if I lift this heavy weight up. And it's like, well, actually, no, but also, Susan, how are you gonna pick up that box off the floor that's full of books? Like, who else is gonna do it for you? How are you gonna carry your luggage when when wanna go on that trip to the Alps? Like, how are you gonna do those things? And so it's not even necessarily like athletic training, so to speak. It's really like training to make everyday life easier. So you're not having to think about the possibility of hurting yourself or not being able to do something that you want to do in your life. Essentially, like you're just opening up doors for yourself by being strong and dedicating the time, to doing those things. So,
Yeah. Well, in the time we have left, I wanted to ask you sort of in closing, thinking about your life now, you've got a basketball team of boys.
yes.
You got Greg, you're coaching these boys up to be, good young men.
Mhm.
You have this business. What are your hopes for not only your life personally, but just for her strength and your family? What are you hoping can grow just in general in your life over the next few years?
Yeah, I think as the boys get older, I would like to be even more present for them than I currently am. I don't coach in the business much anymore, but I'm still working in it and on it. But I would love to really not be at her strength as much even as I am now. And it's not because I don't love it, but it's because I do want to be present for my kids when they need me. And I thought that they would be more independent as they got older, but I'm actually finding that that's not true. They need me in a different way than they did when they were babies. I mean, my little one still needs me like that, but my older boys, I wanna be present so that I can guide them, and again, not think about, like, the time that I missed and what I could have said to them, how I could have been there for them, and so, I her strength is we're successful and busy and vibrant, and we're, a pretty well-oiled machine at this point, and, I would love to say that I'd like to open 10 more locations, but in my heart of hearts, I just don't think that that's in the cards for us unless someone else wants to do it because I really like looking at my life. And I know my husband feels the same way. It's like looking at our life and looking at it from a bird's eye view. We do want to prioritize our family. And if that means that organically we have growth within my business, then great. But if it doesn't, then that's okay. I want her strength to continue to be there as a beacon of empowerment and strength for women of all ages. And I we're not going anywhere. So yeah, I'd like to maintain that.
That's really insightful. I mean, I'm not married. I don't know if I ever will be, but I think like just in this day and age with divorce rates being as high as they are,
Mhm.
that sounds very healthy first and foremost to really prioritize your marriage and then your family. But you touched on a question I was going to ask you, if you'd thought about kind of trying to franchise Her Strength Studio at all. But I've seen it the opposite way, where people can grow way too fast too. So
Yeah.
you have had those thoughts about potentially opening more locations?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've sort of been looking like kind of low key looking for a couple of years now for a second location. And I'm the type of person who I never even really wanted to open my business in the first place. That was not my goal to, out the gate. And so it just happened to fall in my lap. So I truly believe that if it's meant to be, that it will happen. And I think that if it does happen, then great. And I'll do whatever I need to do. But yeah, my family is always going to come first.
I love that. And I think that's a great note to end on. So, Nora, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Alec. It's been a pleasure.